Welcome to the Divinely Sovereign podcast. My name is Senna Scott. I am a sovereignty empowerment coach and an intuitive artist. The Divinely Sovereign podcast is a spiritual growth podcast and sanctuary for women becoming their most creative, expressive, and sovereign self. This is for the woman who is done pushing, proving, and performing, and ready to live from self-trust, embodiment, inner authority, and divine alignment. If you are in a season of becoming, this space is for you. So today we are going to be meeting with Ean Wood, and we're going to be talking deep about his journey of men's work, his work with sexuality with men, and then also the spaces that he's been in supporting women in their healing of masculine wounding. And I'm going to read a quick bio. And before I introduce you, so Ean Wood is a men's coach and facilitator with over 10 years of experience in men's work, relationships, and sexuality. Introduced to his work nearly 30 years ago through his father, he now serves as a support facilitator with the Mankind Project and Sacred Sons. He leads men in building confidence, presence, and healthier relationships. Ean is the creator of Seeding Masculinity. He hosts retreats on Whidbey Island, Washington State, and is a TEDx speaker. Welcome, Ean. Thank you for being here. How you doing?
Thanks so much for having me. I'm excited to dive in. I'm usually in your position as I have my own podcast, so it's nice to be here just to follow your lead.
Yeah, thank you. What is your podcast name for the viewers and listeners today?
Men and sex, and it's
Nice.
about power, purpose, and pleasure.
Yes. Yummy.
Of course, of course.
Well, let's just dive right into it. Can you share a bit about your journey and how you got into men's work?
Yeah, as my little bio shared, my dad found out about men's work before the Mankind Project. He was in school for alcohol chemical dependency to become a counselor. And one of the teachers there told him about a local men's group. He went there, met some men, and that led him to the Mankind Project, which, in my opinion, is the biggest organization when it comes to men's work. It's been around 40 years. It's global. It's in so many different countries. I can literally travel to endless amount of countries and just go find men from being linked to that community and sit in circle with them. It's crazy. Um, so he got involved with the Mankind Project, and my dad is a Leo. He's super fiery. He does not do things that he's passionate about half-ass. He goes 10x into it. So he started being involved with the Mankind Project, and then soon enough, with the circles were meeting at our house, the Pacific Northwest had at the time they had a sweat lodge for the community, and that was on our property. So the
Ooh.
men would come sit in circle, they'd go sweat. And so this is what I grew up around was men coming together in community like that and doing personal development work. My dad was, I was reading Deepak Chopra at 12 and Eckhart Tolle, Joe Dispenza, Osho. So those were the things me and my dad would watch were teachers like that. He was talking to me about past life regression, Edgar Cayce, Akashic Records before hardly anyone knew what that talk was. And so that's just what I grew up around. And mm, a big part of my journey was actually separating it from my dad's thing to my own thing. For a while, it was just like, oh yeah, my dad needs his men's groups, and I'm gonna go skateboard with my buddies. That's my men's group. I'm gonna go skateboard, snowboard with my buddies. It wasn't until I had to cause a lot of my own suffering and my own pain and get lost in my own ways. And then I was really into snowboarding. I It was my greatest passion. On that path, I met some really powerful people that were educating around environmental awareness. I really nerded out on environmental awareness and awoke to that as a human being, I could make positive impact or detrimental impact. I became an advocate of all things environment and politics converted my truck to run on waste vegetable oil,
Dope.
became super into permaculture design. Through all that, love for nature is what brought me back to, I finally realized one day, oh, if I care about nature, I have to work with people because people are struggling. And I had this realization that I was all upset about the person flicking the cigarette on the ground, but I wasn't like, why is that person smoking a cigarette? Like,
Yeah.
what's going on? How are they suffering? What are they disconnected from? What are they hurting? Whatever. So it was that reframe to be like, oh, people are nature and they are hurting and hurting nature. So it all came back full circle for me to really commit myself back to men's personal development. Without my dad, my dad was kind of over it. So I just went deep into it for myself and am on that journey still.
Beautiful. I don't think I have told you, but we actually have a very similar parallel where I went deep into energy engineering and learning about renewable energy and did that for over 10 years. And then even in like the green home construction business for several years. Because,
Wow.
yeah, one of my dreams is to build and design my own net positive carbon neutral home. And so I like had this passion for being like, okay, it's the energy crisis. Oh, it's this or this. And I got into energy policy for a bit and then I was like, oh, actually that sucks. But ultimately I saw like, oh, wow, actually the only energy crisis there is within the individual.
Yeah,
Is the person that is not connected and aware of their relationship with nature and their relationship with earth, and where they are deeply in pain and in separation. I tend to use the word separation consciousness a lot in my
mm,
work as well, of yeah, in this recognition that like you're not a part of the greater whole. You're not in that perspective of the harmony in which all life is. And I believe that's one of the greatest distortions and ailments that we're experiencing. And so,
totally.
yeah. Also, side note, I'm a Leo. What are you?
Gemini.
Oh, my son's a Gemini. Fun.
Gemini, Leo, Moon. So I've got
Okay.
some Leo fire in there too.
Rock on. Cool. I'm a Leo, Capricorn, Taurus rising. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
So, okay, I am so excited to hear more about what specifically got you into working on with men's sexuality. And also, I would love to hear about your Instagram journey. Like,
Hmm.
yeah, you have
Hmm.
a big following and you are posting constantly, like the man gen, right? You are?
I am man Jen for sure. Oh Lord.
Oh my
Okay.
gosh. Yeah,
So
your
why
stuff is
sexuality? Yeah, that's a great question. When I decided to go back into men's personal development for myself, I started staffing a lot with the Mankind Project. They have an initiatory weekend that is really powerful. It's 48 hours. It's probably the most masterful thing I've ever been a part of when it comes to the attention to detail. That
mm,
every little thing has a purpose from how you say it, the words you're saying, what energy you're embodying, and how that leads into something and how it'll be connected to again later on. It's just like everything's sewn together. It's wild. And it's all this orchestrating to discover things in relationship to, whether we say the inner child or something, deepest needs, and then working with that later on. It's just a masterpiece. And when I started staffing a lot on those weekends, there was a statement that I kept hearing all the time, which was, I've never told this to anyone in my life.
mm,
That statement was said maybe multiple times a weekend, and it was always said in connection to sexuality. So whenever there would be talk around sexuality, that would be the statement that I heard. I've never told this to anyone in my life. And at the time, within that organization, I was really learning about the mind, a lot of Carl Jung in that space, a lot of talk around shadow and the things that we can't really see about ourselves. And that statement to me, or the things that we hide and repress and deny, either from ourselves or other people. So the subject of sexuality for me was very clearly the subject that men hid the most. Definitely from each other, definitely from the people in their lives. And what I've come to see is how much of that is even hidden from self. So I heard that statement over and over again, and it was across many years that I kept learning things about how much men are watching sex online. I kept learning about, I mean, the statistics are insane that people watch more porn than Netflix, Amazon, and Twitter, or now X combined. That's insane.
Yeah.
That it makes more money than the NBA, NFL, NHL, and MLB combined
Whoa.
in a year. So think of like those stadiums full of people and all the money that goes into, people that just watch football or basketball or, hockey, like all of those people combined making more money than that. And so I was like, wow, this is really in shadow. And I looked at my own life and even and that was the thing for me was even in men's personal development organizations, there's hardly any space to talk about sexuality. Even in the events, it's like, all right, here you go. You got 2 minutes to talk about it. And it's like, that guy needs 5 days of someone just listening the whole time. So all these pieces came together for me of like, there's no education, there's no mentorship. All men are ever told is what not to do, how not to do it, how wrong this is, how bad this is. You're going to go to hell for this. This is sin. Like it's all the negativity and things you shouldn't do with no teaching and a lack of any understanding of how testosterone works in a 12, 13, 14, 15-year-old's body, and then combine it with these devices where you can see anything and what that does to the brain and the chemistry, it's just like it's insane. So I'm crazy enough to embark upon such a journey to go where you shouldn't go. So that's been my choice. And I was running my own page just focused on working. I was working with men and women. I didn't really care about gender. And then when I switched to sexuality, I was of course like, all right, well, I'm not doing this with women. Like that's just crossing a line that I'm not willing to cross. So I was like, all right, I'm going to do this work with men. So I started my own page and just focused on that. And, a big part of that path in not only in coaching it, but in my own life is working with that creative life force energy and not just dumping it, not just having bad habits that like lower my energy. It's like creating a relationship where that creative energy is a fuel. And as it becomes more and more fuel for me, I'm just become a more and more potent creator. And so I'm able to put out a ton of content. And with that consistency, yeah, last year my following went from 3,000 to almost 40 in the year
Hell
just
yeah.
from like being consistent and not and getting in alignment with the creativity and getting out of my mind. So that's a lot there.
Yeah, that is awesome. Thank you so much for sharing. And I think it's so important to bring light and conscious awareness and to have open conversation like on this topic because it has been so taboo, because there's so much shame cultivated in there. And shame is oftentimes in the sacral chakra, like where our reproductive organs are. And so, oh, I think it's like a fresh breath of air seeing like your content and people talking about this and actually it's cultivating safety and it's cultivating a positive space where people can realize that I believe, as you were just saying, like that is also your creative power, right? And so part of what I was going to say with I believe is that like I believe there's a lot of like religious and historical things that have intentionally brought the taboo and have brought the cutting off our potential our real life force power
Hmm.
and um and so yeah, It is definitely taboo. It is definitely powerful work that you're doing. And I can definitely see that it's very activating, likely for people
Yeah, yeah, it is in a lot
in
of
the
different
best
ways.
way. Being
Yeah,
activated is a gift. Yeah,
I'm here to be an activator for sure.
cool. So I know for myself and also many women, that like have been in women's circles, that have been in sisterhood. One of the questions that sometimes we have is like, what are the men's circles like? Can you give me an inside scoop? What have you witnessed in men when they are in circles?
Wow. Well, that is a lovely question, and there are infinite answers for sure of all the varieties and types. For me, one of the byproducts of being with the Mankind Project is when you go out of the Mankind Project, one of the things that they've done really well is they weave you into what's called an I group. So it's called an I group stands for integration group. So it's like integrating it into your life. It's amazing the web that they've built globally. I moved to the East Coast a couple years ago. As soon as I moved there, instantly looked up the local men's group. Like the week I moved there, I was like sitting in the best men's group I had ever been in. And one guy rented me a car like 2 days, later. Another guy I ended up living with like 2 months later when I decided to move there. So it's just like this web of men all over. It's beautiful. And in the I group, we go through the I groups are based upon the four archetypes that are from a book that is titled King, Warrior, Magician, Lover. It's a beautiful book. And the first round is the lover, which is all about checking in with your emotions. How are you feeling? What's going on? They say pies, physically, intellectually, emotionally, spiritually. So those are some of the general check-ins at the beginning. And there will be some ceremony depending upon where you are. Some people may smudge, some people may not. Some maybe people may call in the directions, some people may not. Um, the next round is the warrior round. It's all about accountability and charges and triggers. And that's been one of my favorite things to experience is being in those spaces where people can like to be with men that are super triggered and to learn that in a space like that, it can be held. I've learned how to be so relaxed around anger now because of being in those spaces. We purposefully bring up all that anger. We dance with it in a good way. I mean, sometimes it can go sideways, but that's part of the journey too. But yeah, like the dealing with the triggers and the accountability in a conscious way. I mean, I could do several podcasts just on those two pieces alone of how powerful that's been in my life. There's a magician round, which is more like the deep inner work of what's going on in a man's life, what he may want to bring. He's got something going home at home with his kids or his spouse, or he's got something going on at work and he wants some support, or he needs to go into some emotions. It's like that's where the range can really change in a men's group of the level of facilitators at the men's group really is how deep or how wide it can go. And then it finishes with the king, which is like all about blessing and closing and loving on each other. So that's like the MKP structure, which is one of my favorites, just because it's easy to replicate. But I
Yeah.
think in a lot of men's groups, it's about being real instead of showing your facade. And I think that in itself, just that piece is huge for men because it's not only males in the human species. If we look around at a lot of different species, it's all about looking like you're the bigot. You're trying to look bigger than you are. You're trying to be as big as you can be in a lot of different ways. And our species is no different of like there's this innate drive to not show your weakness, to not expose your cards, to be seen in a certain way. Um, so having men's groups where it's like, no, let's be real and have that be strength. For me,
Mm.
the word vulnerability isn't even real anymore. Like I don't say that. I'm not vulnerable because I'm not exposing myself in a way that makes me vulnerable to anything.
Mm,
Vulnerability within it is like a term that I'm exposing myself in a way that's like almost dangerous or someone can get me or something. If you think of like the way the word vulnerability is used. So it's like for me, it's just being real. It's like
yeah.
I say the things that are true to me. And that's one of my favorite things about men's groups is being someone that's been involved for so long. I get to just bring that, and then that usually gives other men the permission to do that themselves.
Mm,
That's, I mean, there could be so much said about men's groups, but that's a piece.
yeah. I love that. I also love the piece that you're saying here about like you don't need to say vulnerable anymore, but I just want to name and reflect that like I haven't really seen that until you just brought it up where being vulnerable I guess is actually more so a perspective and a bit of a journey. It's about what you were saying earlier, like in the circle, you learned how to be okay with holding anger. You learn how to like acknowledge that other people can have emotions, that there can be a high charge. I feel like in a way you kind of build a nervous system and
Totally,
emotional resiliency and
totally.
capacity,
Yeah,
and also cultivating safety within your own self
totally.
that you're like, even if, you say something and it pisses somebody off or it activates them or they get mad, you're good. You're safe. And so I always want to reflect that. That's really cool. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a certain amount too that is like a willingness to share myself and reclaim that piece of myself that maybe I'm feeling isn't good or is bad or is wrong. And like doing that practice so many times, it's such a proponent of creating self-love, so it makes it harder for to feel threatened by anyone knowing something about me.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Um, so okay, I'm curious. We've talked before off record, very briefly about sacred masculinity, and I wanted to ask you kind of directly and put you on the spot. What does sacred masculinity actually mean to you?
Oh, wow. Once again, it could be a whole podcast.
Yeah.
I've really been nerding out on this word lately, as you know and have seen. And the I was looking up the etymology of this word, and it's like it's first thing I want to say about this word is there is no way most of us are using this word the same way. Meaning
Totally.
all of us have different adjectives and descriptors. It's like it's similar to the level of God and love and all these things that it would probably take us 1,000 words to write down of how we could describe these things and then be like, oh yeah, these ones we have in commonality here. So when I've been nerding out on this word, it is often referred to in reference to uh, attributes of a man or attributes of a man is usually where the etymology is. And so I'm like, okay, what is that? And that is the word that I've started to like to use more as like masculine attributes because I can point more at the attributes. But when I think of sacred masculinity, I combine these two things in my mind, which is kind of the teachings from yin and yang. So I bring in those perspectives of yang, and then I bring in those perspectives of a man. And so yang brings in the attributes of outward, active. I think of the rays of the sun. It's like going out, the energy is going out towards things. I think of structure. One of my favorite things of thinking about the masculine is like the cup that holds the water. It's that structure. Um, and how do those things pertain to or connect with a man? I think, for us as men, there is a lot about mind and action. Like as a man, I love thinking and I love doing. Like I get excited in the morning. My practice is I have to slow down in the morning because I want to go straight to doing. Um, and I think of like sacred masculinity, it's being a man that is aware and can command the life force energy that's moving through him into things that don't only benefit him,
Mm.
because benefiting him is boy, that's immature, that hasn't matured yet into the sacred masculine. People that are just self-centered focused, which I was a long part in my life, that haven't matured into the sacred masculine, into the mature masculine. I also put mature with sacred masculine, which is like, how am I in service to something greater than me? My family, first step is self, taking care of self so that I'm resourced to take care of my family better, whether that's, my partner and my kids or my parents and my siblings and my nieces and nephews. And then moving into community. If I'm resourced enough that I'm taking care of my family really well, like I'm crushing it there, then I can take care of my community. If I'm crushing it with taking care of my community, then I can go to an even larger scale. And so sacred masculinity for me is very much about commanding my thoughts, commanding what I'm creating every day, and putting it towards something that is lifting life up around me instead of depleting it. Because then, like, I think of the rays of the sun again. I'm like, I'm growing life around me instead of taking from it and being selfish and needing more than I actually need. Um, and I also think with sacred masculinity, it's utilizing, you know, for me, it's like I don't have a monthly hormone process to go through. I'm just like, I'm pretty much the same every day in my drive to create, especially really strong in the morning. And so it's like, how can I also take care of the world around me to let it be softer? Like, how can I show up and enjoy kind of the brute force that I've been granted, the physicality that I've been granted to, lift heavy things, to open things that are hard to open, and um, go shovel the thing and all, to find enjoyment in all of that. So, like I said, that could be a long, long answer to actually answer that, but that's what aspects of what's coming up for me right now.
Mm. My heart feels so warm. That was really, really, really beautiful getting to witness you reflect on and to, yeah, kind of also hear the arc and the journey of something you touched on too, of like the boyhood, the maturity, the boyhood into the maturity, and that being a part of the sacred masculinity, the maturity part of it. Yeah, I also really hear like a deep like reverence, intention, devotion, and seeking to be a benefit, for yourself, for all, and for all. And yeah.
One last piece before you move on there.
Yeah, go for it.
It's one thing that I don't think that's talked about enough is how tricky of a balance beam that is. Right now I'm talking about a lot about men,
Mm.
but the balance beam, because what a lot of men do is either side of the spectrum. Like lost boys stay immature forever, and it's just like, that's where narcissism is because it's like I have to get it for myself because the outside world isn't going to take care of me and I just have to be for me. Or lost boys, like I don't want to, mine was like, I don't want to grow up. I don't want responsibilities. All I care about is my freedom. That's it.
Mm.
But, so a lot of men exist there. And that's, I mean, Trump and these types of politicians are definitely the little boys that are still stuck in, I need to get, I need to just get more and more and more and more for me. But the other side of the pendulum is also just crushing the little boy and stuffing him away and saying, you don't get any space here. And then just like, going to work their whole life and, but not having that balance of taking care of self. So there's that middle path in there that is the sweet spot.
Yeah. Thank you for touching on that.
Hmm.
What do you feel men are currently navigating or struggling with right now?
Mm. Too much information in their brains, and it's creating most men are completely dissociated from their bodies and just always thinking, always in thought about the past or the future, always filling the empty space, listening to something, watching something, doing something. There's just so much we have access to. I can buy something every minute of the day. I can watch something every minute of the day. I can listen to something every minute of the day. I can distract and learn and like it's just never have we been putting so much information in our brains. I think when a man has not had a lot of the opportunities I've had, which is to get a lot of wisdom of the human experience and what we're really working with to navigate this human experience, it just creates a mess. Just creates a mess. It creates very reactive beings, and the reactivity comes from the circumstances of their past, and most of it is based upon protection or trying to meet some need that they're not even aware of. So yeah, men today, I think there's just so much information coming in and no support to even know what they're facing.
Yeah. What do you wish more women understood about men?
Mm. Oh wow. I wish more women understood that they represent the most powerful thing in a man's life, that they are both the greatest love and the greatest pain of a man, that the difference between men and women is that you didn't come from us. You weren't born through us. We were born through you.
Whoa.
And so there's something that we face in our relationship to you that you couldn't possibly understand. And that a lot of the times our mothers were both the greatest love, but they could have probably also been the greatest one responsible for our punishment and taking away that love. So you possibly represent the greatest love, and you hold the keys to take it away whenever you want. And most men have not acquired the skills to have any idea what's going on inside of themselves in relationship to women. Um, and that is probably the greatest pain a man will ever experience is the love of a woman and then her taking that love away. So there's a lot there when it comes to what's going on subconsciously for a man in his relationship to you.
Yeah. Holy shit balls. I felt that one deep.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Oh, okay, one sec. I just need to take a breath on that one. I feel that. Yeah, I feel like from the feminine perspective, uh yeah, sometimes it feels like a man will shut off their heart, and then you feel like you can't access them and so then like you can't connect. And Um, and so there, yeah, I know this can easily quickly turn into tangents and meta, but like,
Hmm.
um, yeah, what am I trying to name it? But feeling something in my own body where like I believe that every person has these attributes of both feminine and masculine, and something of my own internal world and my own internal work is becoming really aware of my own polarities,
Hmm.
and also I feel like a part of one of my inner aches is almost this feeling of like masculine calling forth, like wanting the feminine. Like it feels almost like a heart pull of like,
Hmm.
come, like we need you. Um, yeah, and this is a part of like our upcoming workshop that we've been in collaboration of called the Feminine Ache, and something that I was meditating with this morning. And so yeah, I just feel your words very, very deeply.
Hmm.
Mm. So I want to hear more about the spaces that you've been in where you've been a part of facilitating men supporting women and their healing and their relationships with the masculine woundings,
Hmm.
those different roles in her life. Like,
Hmm.
yeah, what can you share on that?
Yeah, and to segue into that is one of my favorite things about all of this is that this is one of those subjects that it's so clearly that we're in it together because I also represent something to you that's different, you know,
Yeah.
that as a man in relationship with a woman, that it's like, my greatest hope is to inspire more curiosity about each other because there are things we'll never understand. We can do our best to point at them, and people have for thousands of years to point at them and try to describe them in words, and no one's cracked the code that is just like, I can read this thing and now I understand. Like there's so many puzzle pieces, and really the gift is curiosity. Um, for me, I've always felt a call to work with all genders. Me and my dad, every retreat we've ever put on has been mixed gender. Mm, and I was talk to him years ago and say, I just have a desire for this. I don't know where it's coming from, but I'll just follow it. For a while, I actually moved away from working predominantly with men, and I got in deep into, I had a female teacher. Her name is Perry Chase, and I was in a community of hundreds of women. I was like one of a few men. It was all about feminine-led business and learning about masculine and feminine and all these things. And on the other side, I had a deep desire to fill a void that I was seeing was very needed in that I was hanging out with all these men that were doing personal development. And I knew that there was a lot of women that were very harmed by men, whether it was, to the extreme of sexual abuse or emotional abuse, physical abuse. Pretty much every woman I had ever talked to, and my mother, my siblings, like everyone had had some experience like that. So I realized what I was seeing in the men's personal development, particularly with a modality that's called shadow work. It's from a guy, Cliff Barry, and his wife, where we do a lot of theatrical stuff. Like it's a theater. Like pick someone that looks like this person, and then they're gonna play this, then what are they gonna say to you? Okay, that person says it to them. And like we're consciously trying to activate these emotions, these pockets, so that they can be felt and expressed when at the time they didn't have the opportunity to.
Yeah.
When you're 7 years old and something happens with a parent or someone else, and you don't have the mind or the support to fully feel that thing in the moment, then it's just there to be dealt with later. And so in these experiences, activating people, them emoting, releasing, expressing. and like instilling new stories about self, like new belief systems, using all these tools. And I was like, oh, there needs to be more space where women have this opportunity with men because I know there's so much pain here across the aisle in that way. And so I just once again I'm wild enough to just do things that I was just calling in men from the local men's community, and we would put on events with women, and I would call in particular men that I liked the way that they held space and facilitated, and I would say, all right, you're going to come in, you're going to be a prop like for someone's bad dad or ex or someone that rejected them or whatever so that they can feel their feelings, and we're going to facilitate them through that. And it was called Empowering the Feminine. And yeah, I just learned as I went, and uh, super powerful. And I'm still here with thinking there's so much opportunity for it. Then I got involved with Sacred Sons. They put on a huge event every year. It's called Remembrance. The first one I went to was over 400 people, and like pretty much 50-50 men and women. Similar experiences where we were doing that kind of facilitated work, getting like there was this powerful experience where we were like women were across from the men. First, the women got to go and just say and emote everything that they never had the space to before, as the men
Mm.
just sat there and like held space.
Mm.
And so they're just like saying all the things, to whoever they didn't get to say it to, all the emotions, the rage, the sadness, but whatever. And then it would like go into deeper work with different people, talk about it, work through it, and then across, men getting to express to women. And, I think that's part of my what I like to bring back to what do I want women to know. For some men, they've never been hurt by men. I've never been really deeply hurt by men, but I've been deeply hurt by women. And so my reality is much different than your reality because in my subconscious mind, I don't really have that. My friends have always been super good to me. I've been really tight with them. I've traveled the world with them. I put my life in their hands. So like there's something beautiful there. And then women, I was cheated on. I've had different experiences, stuff with my mom that was really hard. And so I live in a different reality, and it's like sharing that story, and when we are all sharing our stories, we get all these puzzle pieces that maybe we don't have because each of us is so unique. So that's one of my favorite things from these experiences where bringing men and women together in this way, it's like that curiosity I feel like is sparked from hearing so many different stories that maybe we don't have access to because all I have access to is my experience.
Yeah. Holy moly, is powerful. Oh, and so I'm curious in when you witnessed that and you were in that, sorry, what did you witness when you held those spaces? And when did you see shift for women in those experiences?
Mhm. It's crazy because one of the things that was powerful is that a lot of times women would just bawl their brains out just for us being like just they wouldn't even do a deep piece of work. They would just be there watching someone, and they would just cry to see us supporting in that way. They would just cry their eyes out. I think it's writing a new story and filling the brain with new information that maybe it doesn't have.
Yeah.
And that's a lot of what these conversations you and I have is like, how
Yeah.
can we put in new information of how we hold something? If all we do is hold men in this negative light and all these bad qualities and how they're, all these bad things, it's like, what do you think, what type of world are we going to live in if that's the only model that we consistently point at and talk about? Same thing with like, do all I do is watch news that's how scary the world is? Or do I watch news that's like how amazing the world is and how amazing people are? So I think just like giving these women the opportunity to express these things that they'd never expressed and they've been holding on to and weaving into a part of their personality and they're probably not even aware of it. Um, the opportunity to express in that way and to, yeah, write a new story of what men are. Yeah,
Yeah.
writing a new story of what men are.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's breaking a cycle. It's also breaking patterns. And
Totally.
what you're saying there too is like, if you have a specific belief or program that is like running or operating or what you're focusing your attention on, then you got your reticular activating system that's going to continually prove to you that that's right. That's
Yep.
right. That exists. But like having this sacred space to be able to break that pattern, to like be like, oh my God, there's actually a new reality, a new possibility, like something else that's possible for me, the dynamics or relationship that I really deeply desire and deeply want. Yeah, tuning into that and what that
Mm.
does. I mean, just what I've gotten to experience in just the past few weeks that I've mentioned to you of like um in just collaborating with you. I haven't even met you in person yet, but like
Hmm.
just seeing your content, like you're in my field. I could feel you before we even met on our first like call online. And also with the men that I've been in collaboration with in the past couple months. Like my energy and my body and like cellularly, I am being retuned and
Mm.
upgraded
Mm.
um and like that literally changes what's the word I'm looking for? Like the physiology
Mm.
of a woman that has experienced intense, little T and big T trauma. So, yeah, it's definitely powerful work. And uh, kind of I want to talk a little bit before we get into Divinely Sovereign, kind of
Hmm.
talking about our
Hmm.
collaboration. Where do you feel the disconnect between men and women is really coming from? I'm gonna throw one more in there. And what do you think both sides are craving right now?
Mm. You know, I've thought about things like this quite a bit, and I've looked at it in myself and just I've nerded out on human behavior so much. I really think that when painful experiences happen, that there's a part of us that claims responsibility for it. And the way that the world is right now, most of us grew up in households with uh, someone that was supposed to represent the archetypical masculine and the archetypical feminine. And so our first wounding comes from these places. And our greatest needs to be loved and our greatest needs to be cared for. And there's just so much deep, deep subconscious stuff. And I think that the greatest disconnection is it's like touching the hot stove, you know? If once I touch the hot stove once, it's like I'm not gonna want to touch the hot stove again. Think about how many times, m all of us have probably touched the hot stove of wanting to love the other and been burned again and again and again. To any other pain, that would be just stupid to ever touch that hot you again, you
Yeah.
know? And I think that the disconnect and it's the two questions together. The thing that we so want is to love and be loved. And this is something I learned about myself recently that for so long I thought that what was so powerful about relationship was being loved. And back to the like maturation process, it's like in my last relationship when we went our separate ways, I realized that I was truly gonna miss who I got to be when I was in relationship with her. And so I think in relationship, we so crave to love and be loved, to love the other and be loved. And the disconnection is the brain that's been so trained by scrolling, Amazon next day delivery, instant gratification, overused dopamine receptors, so much complexity to being a human now with not nearly enough skills to I mean, I've been in this stuff for so long. Sometimes I talk to my dad about this and I'm like, how do people relate out in the world? Like him and I struggle and we've been in reading these books for freaking 30 years, him longer, learning all this stuff, and it's hard for us still. Yeah, we can see
Yeah.
how much we've grown, but it's complex. And I think today, you know, and we're seeing this with AI and chat girls and chat guys on the internet. It's like it's easy to supplement. It's easy to supplement love now. And so there's more opportunity to say, I'm not going to go touch that hot stove again. That
Yeah.
one that's burnt me so many times, you know. Um, and just so much in the same way that men are being impacted, everyone's being impacted, where there's like so much information coming into us. And there's just a lot of ways to avoid what it takes to get a nice stove that's just warm and you don't burn yourself, or you know you're willing to go burn your hand and put the aloe vera on it.
Hmm. What does it actually look like for men and women to heal in relationship, not just separately?
Yeah, I love that you said not just separately,
Yeah.
because that's a key component is that the men are working on themselves and the women are doing their thing. And now we're really in this huge time of like, okay, let's join together with what we've been doing, you know, what we've been doing on our own. Let's do it together now. Will you say the question one more time?
Yeah. What does it actually look like for men and
What does
women
it
to
look
heal in
like? What does
relationship,
it
not
look
just
like? It seems so elementary to say these words, but the further down the rabbit hole I get, I realize how true this is that most people don't know how to care for themselves when it comes to relationship. When problems happen in the relationship, the obsession in the mind becomes about the other person. What they've done, what they're doing. If they didn't do it, I wouldn't feel this way. How do I change it? How do I stop it? It's like this is more of that dissociation or abandonment of self is
hmm
like focus on the other. And the more that I've learned how to, okay, something happens in the outside world that activates me, the first thing I need to go is to me, to myself.
hmm
Who in here, what in here needs me? What
mm,
emotion, what thoughts, what beliefs, like what needs me in here first? And then like addressing the outer. Obviously, there's extreme versions where I need to address the outer first. But it's
yeah.
like this prioritization that I become the one that cares for my inner world. And then I go to the relationship and I bring my awareness of what I'm bringing into the conversation. Like with my
Yes.
partner, when I go into and I have a challenge with her, I'm bringing with me a list of my own shit.
Yeah.
Like I probably have extra energy here because of this. You know, I'm not making, you're not completely responsible for this thing. I have a part in this too. I'm noticing that. Like I bring my own introspections to the conversation instead of just going, when you do this, you make me feel this way. And it's like,
Mhm.
now we just have two inner children fighting each other and wanting to win so that we hope that we get our needs met. So like doing it together is developing the skills to take care of ourselves emotionally, psychologically, somatically, taking care of our nervous system, and bringing this wisdom into an agreement that is like whatever agreement we've made in the relationship of how we support the relationship as two individuals. It's like mastering that inner world so that we can master the relationship together and be on a team. I've witnessed very few relationships in my entire life where I'm like, those two are a team.
Yeah.
Instantly, when challenge happens, people become against each other.
Yeah.
And that's just poor skills on both sides. That's the world that's been modeled to me. And it's like, I want to see where we are strong individuals and we come together as a team of like our own self-awareness to support the relationship and whatever needs to be addressed. A new agreement, a new boundary, new understanding, all that with like the heart open and there still being love. So I think it's the only way to navigate that is together.
Yeah. I love that. Yeah. About like, well, okay, actually, I was gonna say one of the things that you reminded me of was um Esther Hicks. I'm gonna probably not get the quote exactly right, but one of the things that she said was like, what in you is causing me to become separate within
Mm,
myself? Like that
mm,
kind of when I was talking about in the beginning, like about that separation consciousness. Like if I
yeah.
am in communion with, the divine God, source, light, what love, whatever,
Mm-hmm.
and then
Mm-hmm.
something outside of me is reflecting something to me and I'm getting aggravated and I'm thinking it's somebody else. That's the separation happening. And so
Mm-hmm.
it's yeah, what you're saying, what I'm reflecting is that yeah, it's about seeing like, okay, this is, and I like to call this mirror work too, is like seeing like what's
Totally.
outside of me is causing me to get separate from my
Mm-hmm.
divine self.
Mm-hmm.
And um yeah, and I love that of like bringing that information and then bringing that as collaboration with one
Mm-hmm.
another
I mean,
in
it's
care.
one of the greatest challenges of the human experience. It's awesome. Like I wish we were all more aware of the challenge that we're embarking upon together.
Yeah, I agree. I'm honestly sometimes every day this year so far a little bit shocked by like how much fire is coming through me and passion about this conversation of like how important it is for collaborative connection now.
Mm,
And like I just I feel like I'm burning down the walls of like this divisiveness, this war on genders, this like
mm, mm,
pointing blame. And
mm,
yeah, so I would love to segue into talking
mm,
about divinely sovereign, empowering the
mm,
feminine.
mm,
And yeah, what excites you about creating and collaborating on this vision? It's still coming into formation,
mm.
but I'd love to get your take on it.
Yeah, it's, back to doing these experiences and just feeling like there's so much opportunity. It's one of those things in the same way that I feel about sexuality is that I could commit my entire life to this purpose and there would be no end to it with the supply that's available right now.
Yeah.
I feel that mm, when I have the opportunity to hold that pillar for women to face those things that they haven't had the opportunity to face. It feels very purposeful for me as well as I feel that right now is the time for it because the generations before us, men just weren't really where they are right now. And I feel like there's an opportunity just in this exact time stamp to bring the two together in the way that we're talking about in this offering. And I think that, as I've said to you before, when the thing that we're focusing on is women having a shift in themselves and how powerful that is. But what would the world be like if women held di men differently? Like, what
Hmm.
would be the change that could take place when the ones that are the life bringers held that belief system or that vision differently? Like, would that be a catalyst for the men to show up more? I believe it would be. Um, and I just see so much opportunity. There's a lot of men that come to men's personal development because their partner encouraged them
Yeah.
or you know, shared this thing with them. So I just think that for a long time, women have been more willing to do personal development stuff, and that when women keep leading in that department, that it will continually call in more men. And there's a lot more men showing up, calling in the men as well. So the time is just ripe to really amplify this.
Yeah. And just for clarity for listeners, if you don't follow my Instagram and some of the updates that I've been sharing also on my newsletter, Divinely Sovereign is going to be opening a store soon, and I am in collaboration with Ean Wood on hosting a 6-month potent program of having circle work as well as workshops and in-person embodiment workshops that, like we're saying here about one of them being like a rage and grief retreat, and then another being one where we call in men in our community that are ready to hold space to be able to offer this role playing and the medicine for a woman to be able to be seen and felt and heard and be able to be expressive and to reclaim her power in a dynamic that she has been holding on hurt and projections for a very, very long time. And
Mm.
so that's I just want to bring clarity in that, like, that's specifically
Yeah.
what we're talking about. And we have an upcoming workshop called the Feminine Ache coming this week, and where we're going to be first guiding women and diving deeper into a somatic awareness of her ache, of feeling this, and also where this is the wisdom. This is the medicine. This is also where collaboration begins. And yeah, I hope you're getting some great takeaways from this conversation that we're having. So, um, I feel like we answered a lot of my other questions here of what do you feel this kind of space for men and women evolving together, and how it's important right now. I guess I'm going to actually reframe it this way. What becomes possible when both the feminine and masculine are doing this work? Let's talk about that.
Mm. Hmm. I think that, like most energetic systems require a positive and a negative. There's like these two things that go together and create. And life seems to be that way as well. That thus far, the vast majority of human beings that exist on planet Earth are from a man and woman joining together and creating a child. That is the power that has created 7 billion humans on this earth. And seems to be a large number of people that are still coming together in this way. And when we are in more right relationship, the ripple effect is from birth to death, meaning the way that a child is conceived, whether that's intentionally or not intentionally, it starts there, all the way for, I'm sure it starts before that, but even if we just start there, and it's like every aspect of the life, if kids are taught how to relate better, if teenagers are taught how to relate better, if people in their early 20s are taught how to relate better, and it being a healthy dynamic where we feel safe, we feel seen, we feel valued, there will be so much less time wasted trying to fulfill that need. It, this comes up for me in working with men around sexuality. It's like I work with them in their sexuality so they get their shit together and they have more space for purpose instead of
Mm,
watching porn all the time and swiping on dating apps and like trying to fill this bottomless pit that will never be filled. It is just wasting so much life force energy. And the same thing with healthy relationship. If we were all relating more healthily in our dynamics of the people we choose to be with, we wouldn't need to go through 3, 4 divorces where there's all this money spent there and then all this time and energy spent going through the whole dating process. Like it is a sloppy waste of energy in a lot of ways when it comes to the world we could all be collaboratively creating that is more focused on how do we raise the quality of life for all beings on Earth, which that as I believe humans, we are here to be stewards. And the healing across this relational dynamic, um, I see it as like a synergistic thing. It's not, the whole thing of one and one together is not two, it's 11. Have you ever heard that?
oh, no, I haven't heard that before.
And it's this idea of like, one and one coming together. Now we have 11. And the idea is that we're multiplying so much more than just the sum of our parts. In
Yeah.
being two people, we're amplifying the energy, the creativity, the love, the focus, the space we have to be the humans we are and what we have to contribute. So I'm very much about creativity and contribution. And I think when men and women work through their mom and dad stuff and rejection and the way that we hold the other in these wounded ways, there's just going to be so much more energy to make a much more enjoyable existence here on planet Earth.
Yeah. Love that answer. I'm so fired up. So we're going to be coming to a close here shortly. But one thing I want to name too for listeners that are really, really feeling this, that are excited about being potentially a part of a community. In the description, you will find a waitlist link if you would like to be on the waitlist to learn more about updates as they come and are rolled out. And also, yeah, some of the things that we're going to be diving into other than those embodiment retreats is um, relationship, sacred sexuality, going through the mother and father archetypes, which are huge, as we've talked a little bit about earlier on this podcast. So, in closing, Ian, can you share more about how people can find and connect you with your work?
Hmm. Hmm. Well, hopefully it's through you and what we're creating here. And
Yes.
if you want to learn more about me, maybe to create more trust with me or feel into me more, the best way to do that right now is on my Instagram. Well, all my stuff right now, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok is all under seeding masculinity, like planting seeds. So SEEDING and then masculinity. I post on there pretty regularly. And you can contact me there if you have any questions or want to dive into anything. I think that's the best place to get in touch with me and see what I'm doing.
Awesome. In regards to if there is a man listening, and that's interested in doing coaching or work with you, what does that look like?
Yeah, right now I'm putting a ton of energy into the school community that I've created. So that's just an online platform, and we do weekly community calls. I do weekly events. We have like trainings in there. My dad's in there. He does coaching calls with me. And so I'm putting a ton of energy there. And then deep dive one-on-one work. Yeah, I do something called the sexual reset training. That's one of my favorites. I've been doing that for almost 2 years now. And I do parts work as well, internal family systems parts work. So all sorts of juicy stuff. You can message me on Instagram at that handle, and we'll dive into all that stuff.
Awesome. And all of that will be in the description included as well. So, Ian, what is one final message you'd like to leave the listeners, men or women, who are navigating this journey?
I'm gonna connect back to something earlier that was said, which was to have more awareness of the challenge that we face in particularly intimate relationship. That from what I've seen, and I've spent a lot of my time paying attention to this, there's something beautiful about the other that we attract and the way that they stir our pot. It's very purposefully designed that way. To remember that it's one of the greatest challenges to be a very complex individual, meet another very complex individual, have this unspoken agreement where we think we're experiencing reality the same way when we're not, and then trying to dance together while mixing love, sensuality, sexuality, work, the pain of our past, our lineage, the collective. Like it is just extremely complex, this dance that we decide to do together. And I think when more of us remember that, we can have more grace for ourselves and the other. Some of the pain I think that comes up is, am I broken? Why have I not found someone yet? Why is this not easy for me? There must be something wrong with me. And I think that remembering the challenge that we're here for will give us more grace and more space for the curiosity of the other and curiosity of ourselves. And that I think that it's the highest goal of this whole reality relationship. Everything is relationship in this realm. And so not only is it super enjoyable and a great adventure, but it's the ultimate soul learning that we came here for is relating with all of us weirdos here on planet Earth.
Thank you for that, Ian. That was a beautiful way to wrap up today. Thank you so much for being on the
Thank you
Divine
for having
Sound
me.
podcast. Yes. And I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I'll see you on the next episode.